How can you get your age so wrong?
Oh no, what a shame. What a shame. Here I was preparing a special episode of the show to mark Meghan Markle's 45th birthday. I've got Link Lauren, one of Meghan Markle's biggest supporters in the United States of America, and we were just going to celebrate how this lady has turned 45. And Link, it's just such bad news because all of a sudden, this birthday, this 45th birthday, has turned into an absolute disaster for Meghan Markle.
I think when I was 30, if I thought about 50, I thought that is an awful long way away. And I don't really need to think about it. And then I blinked and I'm 50. That's crazy.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
Many people out there have been speculating on that Meghan Markle has lied about her age. Is she actually old?
Meghan Markle just turned 45, but the biggest story surrounding her birthday wasn't the celebration. It was what happened to the business she built with Netflix. 6 months after entering 2026 with rising website traffic, As Ever had reportedly lost nearly half of its monthly visits. And then came another development that complicated the entire picture.
Thomas Jr. was 14 when Meghan came into the world. Were you disappointed?
No, I just made a little mark on my board and said, oh, there's another lie, click.
And you're wondering, why does her age matter at all? Because her age would also have an impact on her ability to have children. Because if Meghan Markle is 4 years older than what we have been led to believe, it makes it even more difficult to believe that she was able to get pregnant so quickly.
Segment 1. A different kind of birthday. It's the first week of August, and for the Duchess of Sussex, that means birthday season. Meghan Markle turned 45 this year, and if you compare it to some of her birthdays in recent memory, this one looked noticeably smaller, quieter, and more private. According to people close to the family, the plan going in was simple. A relaxed day surrounded by loved ones. Nothing performative, nothing built for headlines. And that's basically how it played out. Prince Harry filmed a short video of Meghan dancing around their kitchen at home in Montecito, California, which she later posted to Instagram. It wasn't a polished, professionally lit campaign image. It was a phone video of a woman in her own kitchen. She wasn't alone in it either. Their 2 children, 7-year-old Prince Archie and 5-year-old Princess Lilibet, were part of the celebration. And in a detail that a lot of outlets picked up on, so were 2 much less publicized members of the household, their dogs, a black Labrador named Pula and a beagle named Mia. Harry and Meghan reportedly put party hats on both dogs and tried, unsuccessfully, to get them to sit still for the camera. Mia apparently just rolled around on top of hers. Pula carried hers off in her mouth. It's a small detail, but it's worth pointing out because it tells you something about the tone of the day. After years of intense scrutiny over nearly every photo this family releases, where every gesture gets read as a signal, every caption gets picked apart line by line, this birthday leaned hard into the ordinary. Kids underfoot, dogs refusing to cooperate, a kitchen, not a ballroom. There's also a small historical coincidence worth mentioning. August 4th isn't only Meghan's birthday, it's also the birthday of the late Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, who was born on that date back in 1900. She lived to 101, and royal commentators point this overlap out pretty much every year, even though Meghan hasn't been a working royal since 2020. Now, compare this year to the recent past, because the pattern is actually pretty consistent. On her 44th birthday, she shared one photo, herself blowing out candles at a private dinner in Beverly Hills, with a caption thanking her husband, friends, and family for a beautiful 24 hours. She specifically praised the meal, calling dinner at a restaurant called Funk one of the best of her life. On her 42nd birthday, she was spotted quietly with friends in Santa Barbara, going to see a movie. No official statement from the palace, which royal reporters noted at the time is fairly normal, since Buckingham Palace typically doesn't publicly mark birthdays for non-working royals. So what we're looking at with this 45th birthday isn't some sudden shift. It's a continuation of a multi-year trend. Smaller circles, private venues, family-first framing, and posts that read more like personal scrapbook entries than press releases. It's a useful contrast, actually, if you go back even further. Her 37th birthday, her very first as a royal, was spent at the wedding of one of Harry's close friends, Charlie Van Straubenzee, in the English countryside, with Harry serving as an usher at the ceremony. Her 41st birthday, marked in press coverage at the time, came during a year the outlets described as packed with headlines, from the couple's early Hollywood deals to their evolving public profile after leaving royal life. Each of these birthdays, looked at side by side, tells a slightly different chapter of the same story, a very public, wedding-adjacent celebration as a new royal, a headline-heavy birthday during the transition to America, and now, several years later, a private kitchen dance video with 2 kids and 2 dogs in party hats. That's a fairly natural arc for anyone's 40s, honestly, regardless of fame. The Netflix split. What actually happened now? Here's where it gets more substantial, because turning 45 happens to land in the middle of a genuinely significant business transition for Meghan. Back in March of this year, Netflix officially ended its investment partnership with As Ever, Meghan's lifestyle brand. And to understand why that matters, you have to go back to how As Ever started in the first place. The brand launched in March 2024 under a different name, American Riviera Orchard, before being rebranded to As Ever. Roughly a year later, in March 2025, time to launch alongside her Netflix docuseries, With Love, Meghan. From the very beginning, As Ever was developed in partnership with Netflix's Consumer Products Group. That's not a minor detail. It means Netflix wasn't just a streaming partner airing her show. It was structurally embedded in the business itself. So when Netflix exited as a partner this past March, that's a real structural change, not just a PR footnote. Both companies released statements about it. Netflix's statement, shared with The Hollywood Reporter, framed it as always having been the plan. Quote, "As it was always intended, Meghan will continue growing the brand and take it into its next chapter independently." As Ever's own statement said, the brand was grateful for Netflix's partnership through launch and our first year, describing meaningful and rapid growth, and stating the brand was now ready to stand on its own. That's the official version, and it's worth taking seriously. Companies do sometimes structure partnerships with a planned exit point once a brand hits certain growth targets. But outside analysts have offered a more cautious read on what an early exit like this usually signals. Nick Id, a UK-based brand and culture expert, told Newsweek that when an investor like Netflix backs a business and then departs earlier than a typical multi-year hold, it often means the investor didn't fully recoup its investment. In his words, Netflix will have made a loss. That's an outside interpretation, not a confirmed number, and it's important to be honest about that distinction. We don't have Netflix's actual return figures. What we have is one analyst's read on what early exits in this kind of deal structure usually mean. Either way, the practical result is the same. As of this year, Meghan is running As Ever, without a corporate partner underwriting production, marketing, or distribution. That's a meaningfully different operating reality than the one the brand launched into. It's worth walking through the brand's actual timeline here, because a lot of commentary skips past it. The venture originally launched in March 2024 under the name American Riviera Orchard, a name tied closely to Meghan's Montecito location. That branding ran into an early snag. Her legal team had applied to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office back in October 2022 for permission to sell items like aprons and clothing under the eventual brand name, and that application was denied for the clothing category specifically. Reports at the time were clear that this wasn't a full ban on the brand, just a restriction, meaning she'd need a separate filing if she ever wanted to sell apparel. The company pivoted anyway, rebranding a year later to As Ever and relaunching in March 2025, timed deliberately alongside the premiere of her Netflix docuseries With Love, Meghan. From that relaunch through the rest of 2025, the brand expanded steadily, starting with shelf-stable pantry goods like jam and honey, then adding wine, candles, and a rotating set of collaborative product releases. Multiple limited drops during that stretch sold out quickly, which is part of why the brand generated so much press attention in its first year. By late 2025, according to Newsweek's compiled SimilarWeb data, the site was seeing real month-over-month growth, climbing to roughly 197,000 visits in October, and then up to 268,000 by January of this year. a reported 36% increase since October. At that point, according to a source who spoke to the Daily Mail, the conversation inside the business had shifted from small production runs to talk of needing purchase orders in the range of 1 million units. And there was reportedly interest in expanding into pop-up retail experiences, contingent on how her Netflix holiday special performed with audiences. So the brand entered 2026 on what looked, by the available numbers, like a genuine growth trajectory. That's the context that makes the traffic decline over the following 6 months worth taking seriously. It's not a brand that was struggling from day one. It's a brand that was reportedly climbing sharply, heading into the year, before losing its Netflix partnership in March, and then posting a steady, sustained drop in site visits through the middle of the year. Segment 3. What the traffic numbers actually show. So here's the question that matters more than any single Instagram post. How is the brand actually performing right now, independent of Netflix? This is where we can move from speculation into actual data, because digital traffic numbers are trackable, and they've been reported on directly. According to data from the analytics platform SimilarWeb, reported by Newsweek, traffic to the AZever website fell 46% during the first 6 months of 2026. In January, the site logged about 268,000 visits. By June, that had dropped to roughly 145,000, a decline of about 124,000 monthly visits. Around 45% of June's traffic came from the United States, which is currently the only country AZever ships. 2, meaning U.S. visits alone, fell from about 89,000 in January down to roughly 66,000 by June. Now, context matters here, because January's high number wasn't necessarily a stable baseline. It likely reflected elevated attention connected to the brand's various product drops and press cycles earlier in the year. Traffic naturally cools after launch spikes for almost any consumer brand. That's a normal pattern, not unique to AZever, but a sustained, nearly 50% decline over 6 straight months is still a meaningful trend worth flagging, regardless of the cause. It's also worth noting that AZever has continued to sell out individual product drops throughout this stretch. In January, the brand launched a hand-designed leather bookmark priced at $18, stamped in gold with the phrase "fell asleep here" in Meghan's own handwriting, alongside a bundled gift set called "A Moment to Unwind." According to multiple outlets, the bookmark sold out within about 10 minutes of going live, and the broader set sold out within the hour. So you've got two things that are both true at once. Individual limited releases are still generating fast sellouts, which suggests there's a committed core audience willing to buy quickly. But overall site traffic, the pool of people even browsing the brand day to day, has been shrinking substantially over the first half of the year. Those two facts aren't necessarily contradictory. A shrinking but highly engaged fan base can still sell out small, limited drops quickly, while the brand's broader growth trajectory flattens or declines. One branding analysis, published by the outlet Brutiful Living in May and updated in July, made a similar point, noting that while the brand's core baseline traffic has been declining, AZever hasn't yet proven that its founder's personal draw has translated into larger, more durable product demand beyond that initial audience. That's a fair, data-grounded critique, distinct from unfounded gossip about personal scandal. It's about business fundamentals, not speculation about someone's marriage or identity. There's also a PR expert's assessment worth including here for balance. Branding consultant Renee Smith, speaking about the brand's direction heading into this year, said AZever has the ingredients for a long-lasting brand within its existing fan base, but argued it needs to stop feeling so reactive. Her recommendation being that the brand needs clearer, more consistent messaging and needs to decide whether its next chapter is primarily about commerce, culture, or personal reinvention, because trying to be all three simultaneously wasn't working, in her assessment. That's a legitimate, sourced piece of industry criticism, very different in kind from unverified claim about stolen aesthetics or copied identities. It's the difference between, here's a brand strategy critique from a named expert, and sources say she has no personality of her own. One is reporting, the other is gossip, dressed up as reporting. It's also worth putting these numbers in a bit of broader perspective. A lifestyle and consumer goods brand, built almost entirely around a single founder's public profile, is always going to see traffic ebb and flow with that founder's media cycle. A new Netflix season, a fresh product drop, a press moment, and traffic spikes. A quiet stretch, with no launches, and it cools off. That pattern isn't unique to As Ever. It's common across founder-led direct-to-consumer brands generally. What makes this period specifically worth watching is the timing. The decline lines up with the exact months following the Netflix investment exit, which is precisely when a brand most needs to prove it can generate demand on its own steam, rather than riding a partner's marketing and distribution muscle. Segment 4. Beyond the Jam. The production side of the business now. As Ever isn't the only thing happening in Meghan's professional world this year, and honestly, the production side of her business might be the more interesting long-term story. In January, Meghan took on an executive producer credit on a documentary called Cookie Queens, directed by Elisa Namias, which premiered at the Sundance Film Festival. That's a notable expansion, moving beyond hosting a lifestyle docuseries and into executive producing a factual film with an outside director. It's worth understanding the environment that film premiered into, because it actually makes the outcome more impressive than it might first appear. According to the International Documentary Association's coverage of the festival, Sundance 2026 was a genuinely difficult year for documentary buyers. Very few factual projects found distribution deals at all, with one industry headline describing the state of the documentary market that year as facing decimation in terms of acquisitions. Against that backdrop, Cookie Queens, getting picked up by Roadside Attractions for distribution with a theatrical release date of August 7th, is a meaningfully strong outcome. It's a real external validation point for Meghan's producing credentials. Not a self-reported achievement, but a deal made by an outside distributor in a market where most comparable films weren't getting picked up at all. Separately, from the documentary business, Meghan and Harry's core content partnership with Netflix, the one behind With Love, Meghan, and their other television and film projects, was reportedly renewed, distinct from the As Ever product investment that ended. So it's important to be precise here. Netflix didn't exit the Sussex's business entirely. It exited specifically from the As Ever product investment, while the broader content and programming relationship continued under a renewed agreement. That nuance gets flattened a lot in headline-driven coverage, where you'll see conflicting claims like Netflix drops Meghan right next to Netflix renews Meghan deal, as if they contradict each other. They don't. They're describing two different parts of the same overall business relationship, and both are accurate, depending on which part you're talking about. On the personal and family side, this year also included travel, a trip to Portugal, followed by time in the UK, where Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet reportedly joined Harry for a meeting with King Charles at Highgrove, his private Gloucestershire estate, along with additional time spent in Scotland. Visits involving the wider royal family have been rare and heavily scrutinized ever since Harry and Meghan stepped back from royal duties in 2020. So any documented time with King Charles tends to get read, for better or worse, as a signal about where that relationship currently stands. Taken together, this gives you a much fuller picture of Meghan's professional life at 45 than the product business alone would suggest. She's not just a founder managing a jam and candle line. She's also now got a producing credit tied to an outside distribution deal, a continuing content relationship with one of the biggest streamers in the world, and by all appearances, at least some renewed contact with the wider royal family. Any one of those threads on its own would be a reasonable story. Together, they paint a picture of someone actively diversifying rather than standing still. Segment 5. Reading the full picture look like for Meghan Markle. 6% by the data we have. Even continue to sell out quickly a model sales. And on the personal, a kitchen dance video, nothing nation, which a lot of commentary in this space doesn't resist. To read a quiet, low-key moment must be hiding something bigger. That a private birthday is secretly a PR strategy. That a solo photo must mean marital trouble. That a business setback must mean imminent collapse. Sometimes those read, especially with a public figure who has been the subject of verified claims over the years. Segment 6. What actually matters going forward. So heading into As Ever's traffic decline stabilizes longer structural problem, now that Netflix isn't underwriting the business. Second, how, since a strong reception could meaningfully strengthen Meghan's standing as what, if anything, comes out of the renewed Netflix content partnership.